Something I find odd about most narrative games is that they almost never manage or even attempt to marry the different aspects of their design. In terms of player experience, this means that weird feeling you get sometimes, where shifting between the story bits and the game bits quite literally feels like jumping to a different piece of media. I can understand the difficulty in achieving cohesion between the two, as games are inherently more complicated and varied in structure than arguably most other forms of media, but nonetheless, the disconnect remains. And while it usually doesn't ruin the experience, it certainly represents lost narrative potential of the game. Legacy of Kain's Soul Reaver, while not perfect in this regard, represents game design focused on fitting its setting and story, as opposed to simply accompanying it. The world of Nosgoth is one set into decay by the rise of ever-evolving vampires. The player character is one such vampire who is cast into the abyss for surpassing his master. His body's subsequent destruction and revival defines everything about how he functions throughout the game. With rare exception, all abilities he possesses are directly tied into the setting and story. Chief among them, the plane-swapping mechanic, which allows him to traverse the world according to both rules of physical life and spectral beings, due to his nature as neither alive nor dead. Because of this, he must also constantly feed on the life force of souls to maintain his physical form. Likewise, combat is directly tied to this duality and setting as well. Defeat for Raziel means losing his corporeal form, not instant failure. This allows you another chance to feed in the spectral realm and return to the fray of the living. Similarly for his enemies, merely defeating them is more than slashing them into submission. You must exploit the weaknesses of vampires with your surroundings to actually kill them. Even then, due to the decay of the world and the inability for souls to complete their natural cycle, failing to feed your hunger as a Reaver of Souls during combat can result in bodies being revived by their own meandering life force. On top of that, destroying their body and then not feeding on their soul can also result in them becoming a far more threatening being in the spectral realm, which will then present very real danger should you fall in the realm of the living. Every aspect of the combat feeds into the other ones, creating an interesting system built upon a logical extension of just a few rules of the world. It would have been extremely easy for the developers to put in a bog-standard combat system, where you just punch enemies with simple combos and then perform finishing moves. But instead of trying to make a standard melee combat game with a cool world, they created gameplay specifically to fit the setting. This extends to the rest of the game as well. That seemingly all-powerful narrator that speaks in your head and crops up so often, in here it's literally an eldritch god, manipulating you to achieve its own ends. Fast travel system? They're gateways, set in place for traversing distances long ago by the inhabitants of the world. Environmental puzzles abound in this manner also. A massive updraft you can glide with? It was built to power a monumental organ used as a weapon in holy wars. Even secret passageways are such because humans cower behind them, desperately trying to survive within their desecrated cathedral. But perhaps one of the most impressive aspects of the game, as well as the one that helps make the world feel so cohesive, is the complete lack of loading. You simply walk everywhere. Even teleporting with the gateways has you merely walking through them to the new area. Not only is this extremely technically impressive, especially for the time, but whenever desired you can switch to an alternate version of any location via the spectral realm. These aspects combined mean every possible place to visit in Soul Reaver has you going there by simply doing so. As a final impressive feat, UI is kept to the absolute minimum. There's only one UI menu for use during the entire game, and it's a simple rotating selection of spells. Besides this, your physical health is always visible, but nothing else ever rears its clunky head to slow down your drinking of the world. Playing Soul Reaver feels like a singular experience, every piece of it managing to fit in nicely with the rest, so that I never have that dissonance of disparate design pieces desperately attempting to copulate. Is this a goal every game should strive for? I would say absolutely not. But while gamey aesthetics certainly have their place, using them as a crutch while claiming to present a dramatically cohesive game world simply doesn't work nearly as well as it could. Instead, designing the game for the setting gives everything more impact and allows for even more storytelling through environmental interaction, inviting the player to take part in the world, not simply observe it.